Our business has a purpose, a why, a guiding light, a reason for being that extends beyond just business. That's why Unilever has been voted the #1 company to work for on the African continent, proving that companies with purpose last and people with a purpose thrive. This purpose joins millions of people together through initiatives that aim to improve people's health, confidence, and well-being by leading by example. This is the purpose that helps move the world towards better habits. A purpose that has seen us partner with our government on projects such as the National Schools Hygiene Program, driven through brands like Mented and P that aims to help students miss fewer days through less tooth decay, Lifebuoy that keeps kids in school with simple hygiene techniques, and the power of Domestos that not only sanitizes school toilets but brightens the future of millions of children who attend these schools. We turn beauty into a feeling, into a confidence that helps drive South African women. Our skin products don't just heal skin, but heal communities. We are improving the health of the planet because our washing products save time as well as water and care for the environment with every wash. We have a deep purpose to improving the water quality in Africa's waterways. We don't just create jobs, we enhance lives. 2 of our most widely used bottles are made from 100% recycled plastic and are fully recyclable. When you put purpose into sustainable living, it becomes commonplace. A company like ours that is future fit ensures its factories have zero non-hazardous waste to landfill for future generations to follow and benefit from. We don't just feed people, we're changing the way people eat so that there's more food to go around. Purpose gets its energy from a full stomach. Tea is tea. But tea with a purpose is Joko, which helps women overcome their daily challenges and stirs the conversation around domestic abuse. We don't just make products for people, we empower the nation. Our Enterprise and Supplier Development Fund of 80 million rand supports the growth of entrepreneurs whose very own purpose fuels ours. Our detergents don't just make clothes shine, we help job seekers shine. We invest in programs that empower the youth of Africa and boost them forward into a sustainable career because we understand that people with purpose thrive. We make sure that we're doing everything we can to combat climate change. We use our strength to look out for the most vulnerable South Africans because our purpose is to contribute to a fairer and more socially inclusive world for all citizens of South Africa. Our business with purpose will grow now and into the future.
And good afternoon, everybody. I see the numbers are creeping up. There's lots of you here today. Good afternoon, Gradstars. Welcome. I'm Laura Barker. Many of you know me, probably many of you don't. I'm the MD of Black Belt Productions and the founder of the Gradstar program. So just to introduce you to today, thank you for joining us here at the Unilever Engineering Masterclass. As many of you will know, over the past 7 years, Gradstar has recognized and assisted with the employment of thousands of students just like yourselves. And we're here today with one of our top employers to provide this forum for you to take the opportunity to ask about your futures and to design your own destiny. As many of you will be aware, we've done a lot of work with Unilever. They're a huge part and important partner to the Gradstar program. And they're also a major employer of many of you Gradstar students out there. So the world's still all a bit weird. It wasn't quite the way we expected it to be. It was supposed to be right by now. And we know last year and the year before was pretty rough. But we're here all together to tell you that you've got this. We believe in you. The employers are still here. They're still waiting for you and they're still looking for you. So today, Unilever have come together. They've lined up some of their top talent and senior leaders to share with you the benefits of an engineering career with them. These discussions will be facilitated by the amazing Namkla Nabe, talent manager at Unilever, who I will hand over to shortly. But firstly, remember these amazing leaders and representatives are here to share their knowledge with you. They're here to help you build your future. So make sure you ask, make sure you take the chance to learn. Fill that chat with questions. I'll be coming back on at the end, and I will ask as many questions as I can. Stand up, be noticed. And believe me, they're all here today for a reason, and that's to check out you guys. So impress them. The chat log will be shared with Unilever at the end of the session, and they will choose themselves who they want to hear more from. So make sure that you take the chance today, you take the opportunity, and you're the one that stands out, shows up, and is noticed today. Please, everyone, feel free to post about the session and your learnings on our social media after the event. And also, we'll cover this more at the end, but in order to be considered by Unilever, make sure you register on the Level Up platform, make sure you're on the Gradstar app, you've entered the Gradstar Awards, and you apply for their ULIP program. But we'll come to that at the end and put all the links in the chat. So that's me. Welcome. Enjoy the session. I'm looking forward to learning too. Namkla, I'm going to pass over to you now.
Thank you so much, Laura. It's such an awesome opportunity that Unilever is yet again here with Gradstar. I really hope my background is going to work here. Do let me know. Thank you to everyone that's joining us on this Friday afternoon, right? Really, really are privileged to be with you. I have a full cohort of my Unilever leaders with me today. Am I here? Awesome. I'll start this again. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for joining Unilever. We're really looking forward to engaging with you for this next hour. So please make sure that you write all your questions on the chat. I'm going to quickly just take us through the agenda and what we'll be doing today. Tanya, please change slides. Awesome. While you get to that slide, a little bit about me. I'm the Talent and Organization Manager at Unilever. I started at Unilever in the year 2011, so a very long time ago, and I started as a management trainee. Now we call the program Unilever Future Leaders. I will share a little bit about that. And I spent most of my career in the supply chain. So it's so exciting for me to be able to be here today to talk to you about all of the amazing opportunities that we have there, specifically within our engineering sphere. So we are going to do a quick icebreaker after this. Then we're going to talk a little bit about Unilever. You guys would have seen the first video. There's another short one coming up. And then I'll talk to you a little bit about our purpose. And then we'll engage with the awesome panelists that we have today. And then we'll afford all of your questions, the platform, to be answered and to be heard. And then that will wrap up our session. Thank you so much. Over to Lelapa, my colleague in the TNO space, who's going to just do a quick fun icebreaker with us.
Thank you very much, Namkla. Firstly, before I begin, I'd like to congratulate each and every single one of you. You've taken the first steps to ignite your purpose and your future at Unilever. As mentioned, one of the top employers in the country and Africa, a global organization. So we look forward to sharing more about all the opportunities we have with you today. Before we dive in, I'd like to have a small icebreaker, get to know you a little bit better. So please join me on Mentimeter at www.mentimeter.com and use the code 8319814, or you can just simply scan the QR code over there and let's have a conversation. I see there are 5 people that have joined me on Mentimeter. I'm just going to give you guys a few more minutes to hop on. Okay, we have 8 people. Okay, great. So just take your phone and scan the QR code or go to www.mentimeter.com and just jot down the code 8319814. 19 people have joined me on Mentimeter. Just simply scan. Okay, great. We have 24 people. Let's go to our first question. So have you considered a career in supply chain at Unilever? And I'm sure if you're on Gradstar app, you're probably a student or you're a recent graduate, and you're currently considering the various career options you have. And today we are here to delve in the wealth of opportunities we have at Unilever and supply chain for you. So supply chain engineering. Okay, 38 people have. That's a positive response. And I'm sure our supply chain leaders are very much happy to see the number of yeses we have today. That's great. We have 71 responses. Let's move on to the next question. So if you were attentive, and you watched the video we played in the beginning, we've given you a few hints over there. So name all the Unilever brands you know. So Unilever is home to over 400 brands that are used by over 2.5 billion people globally. So you probably woke up this morning and you used the Unilever brand. So let's see who knows. Okay, Domestos, Sunlight, Lux, Brute, Joko. Let's see whether we get a unique brand. Each of our brands are
Lapa, do
very
you want
much
to try
unique.
put on your camera? Maybe on and off again?
I'll try and do that now. Okay, great. Ola is our brand. Sunlight, Domestos, Axe, Dawn, Knorr, Lifebuoy. Thank you very much for all the responses, guys. Namsa is going to tell us more about all these wonderful brands we have. So stay tuned and enjoy the masterclass. This is for you.
Thank you so much for that, Lelapa. It's so exciting to see that you guys actually were very much spot on with all of our brands. The ones that even said Ben and Jerry's, I realized you could have actually seen that from the back of our screens, because that's one of the brands that we actually don't even have in South Africa. I only got to taste Ben and Jerry's when I was traveling to Kenya, and I wish and I am hoping for the brand to come and land in South Africa. So yes, if we can just move on to the next slide and just have a quick short Unilever mini video, and then I'll talk to you guys about who we are. But it's so awesome to just see the numbers who are really, really keen to come and work for Unilever. You guys are at the right place. Awesome. So Unilever is actually one of the world's most largest consumer goods companies. We're also known as something called fast-moving consumer goods, which is FMCG. And we really are driven by our purpose to make sustainable living a commonplace. This is actually a big Unilever strategy, because we really do believe that if you are a responsible and a sustainable employer, it really makes for a stronger and better business going forward into the future. Next slide, please. Awesome, thank you. I think Lelapa would have alluded to this. We have a variety of brands, so over 400 brands, and we have so many people that actually use them that we have over 2.5 billion people that use one of a Unilever product every single day. We're actually available in over 190 countries. And in some of these countries have actually been available or been there for more than 100 years. So just to name a few, it would be your India, your Indonesia, your Argentinas, which are also known as emerging markets. And actually in Unilever, most of our turnover or majority of it comes from these emerging markets, which would also include South Africa. And just to talk about how big we are, in 2020 alone, we had 51 billion in terms of our turnover, and that's in euros. And we are found everywhere. We're found in small spaza shops. We're found in big supermarkets. We have about 25 million retail outlets across the world globally. And we are the second largest marketeer or advertiser globally. Next slide, please, Tanya. We are number one currently employer that was voted number one for FMCG by Gradstar. So thank you to all of you guys who are a part of Gradstar. But over and above that, we actually came number one in South Africa in FMCG and manufacturing, which is also where our supply chain would be under. And we're also one top employer overall, and not just in a specific sector, for South Africa and also for Africa. And it's also interesting to know that for graduates across the globe, in 54 countries, we've actually also been nominated as number one. We have a large amount of employees, and we really believe that our employees are the core of this organization, where we've got over 149 distributed globally. And what's important to note is that as much as we are in all of these local markets, we have 93% of leaders actually coming from those local markets. We also believe in diversity and inclusion. It's truly at the heart of Unilever. And in 2020, we were celebrating that we had a 50-50% in terms of our gender balance when it came to all of the managerial roles at Unilever. And we still strive to always be increasing this number, and specifically within our supply chain and in our engineering spheres. Thank you so much, Tanya. I'm now going to talk a little bit about entry points into Unilever, which will be our next slide. Awesome. So there's many Unilever brands. You guys have already seen that slide, so I'm just going to skip over that one. But can you imagine an opportunity to learn and work with these brands and also be able to influence them, for them to always be a force for good? We have 2 points of entry into Unilever. There's the internship program, which is ULIP, which we're going to talk about at the end as well, because our applications are currently open. And then we also have our Future Leader program. We've got one of our guest speakers, who's currently part of it. We generally have a few functions at Unilever, so marketing, CD, R&D, IT, finance, HR, and supply chain. Today we'll be focusing on zoning in on the supply chain. But should you apply and you want to be part of the supply chain UFLP, what it is you'll be part of the leadership pipeline. So we have a very big managerial pool, and we make sure that we also can bring in young talents, young students who can come in and learn a lot about the business, a lot about their function in an accelerated program, which is 2 to 4 years, depending on their development. They come into the role at Unilever, and from day one, you become a permanent member of staff. You have a variety of job experiences. So you come into the role and you don't just stay in one role. You have a career path and you move from one role to another role based on the critical skills in which you need to acquire for you to be a fully fledged supply chain engineer professional. Along the journey, I hope you guys can still hear me. I'm getting something saying my connection is poor. If it does happen again, I'll just switch off my video for a little while. And you get to constantly be engaging with Unilever leaders, and obviously getting opportunities to work in global teams on exciting projects, and also being able to go and see those markets. Then we've got our shorter work experience, which is for our varsity students that would not have currently completed or wouldn't be completing their qualification, and they are still looking for work experience. We have a 4-week program, which generally happens within your vacation in winter or in summer. And you get to really experience Unilever real life. So you get to understand our culture, you get to work on a real project, you get to present this project to your functional LT, which would be your leadership team at the end, and obviously get an opportunity then to be part of the UFLP program. Thank you so much, Tanya. I want to now welcome our panelists. I'm going to be having a quick introduction of them. I hope everyone can still hear me. If someone can just say yes.
We can hear you, Namhla.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. I want you to meet our awesome panelists. It's really, really, you guys are really privileged to be having Prasheen, Dokozo, Tsegofatso, and Lindsay with us today. Prasheen is currently our engineering director for full Africa, so not just looking after our South Africa geography. We've got Dokozo, who's our sourcing unit director, which is looking after one of our biggest factories in Durban, the Maidenwell factory. She'll talk a little bit about that. We've got Lindsay, who is our supply chain and manufacturing capability HR manager. And we've got Tsegofatso, who's currently our Unilever future leader within the supply chain. And I think this would be her 3rd year. So welcome to the team. Thank you so much for being here. If you guys can just switch on your videos, please. I see you, Ndogozo. I see you, Tsego. Prasheen, I think the stream is unavailable or something might be happening there. They're technical. And then Lindsay, if you can also just quickly just switch on your camera and then we'll wave to the guys and then we'll start with Tsegofatso, who's going to just quickly tell us a little bit about her career journey. Thank you so much, guys. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm hoping Prasheen and Linz will join us. There you go, Linz. Can see you. Welcome, welcome. Over to you, Tsego. Can you please tell us a little bit about your career journey thus far? And I'm going to ask for the slides to please move. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, Namhla. And hello, everyone. Firstly, I just want to congratulate everyone that is on the call today. It's a wise decision that you've made joining us on a Friday afternoon. I do believe that there are other things that you could be doing. So it's a heads up from me for joining this session. As mentioned, my name is Tsegofatso Ndubeni, and I'm going to give you guys a quick career journey that I've been through. Mine is very short. As Namhla has mentioned, I am currently a part of the UFLP, just started my 3rd year, so I was part of the 2020 cohort. So I haven't been here for a long time, but you can see with the slide that is presented that I've already gained quite a number of what I think are lifetime experiences that I'll remember and will help build my career. So I am a chemical engineering graduate from Wits University. I graduated in 2019. And whilst I was waiting for my big breakthrough, I did a couple of sales jobs. I sold in a mobile kitchen. I also joined a startup wherein I was doing telesales, and I gained quite a number of critical skills from those jobs. So no job is ever too stupid or too small for one to do, because there's always something that you can gain from them. And that is what I learned. And then I got my big breakthrough when I became a part of the 2020 cohort of Unilever Future Leaders. And then I started off with as being a process engineer at the Boxberg powders detergents factory, which was awesome. And then I moved into logistics. So just to give you a brief background, when I joined as a process engineer, it was, I think, by far the most exciting role that I was a part of or that I was doing, because I got to really touch all those detergents that I grew up seeing, you know, from your Omo to your Sunlight to your Surf to your Skip. I on a day-to-day got to interact with people that we were making those powders go onto the shelves. And it was an interesting time, because when I joined, it was at the start of COVID, but just how this business that I got into was so determined that even in such times, we were still delivering our product to the customers and to our to different homes, because we really needed detergents at that time. It was so amazing. The different things that I did within the role as a process engineer, but for the sake of time, I will not get into that. And as mentioned, it's really about supply chain, because I came into the supply chain function. I also got an opportunity then to move into logistics, wherein within the same factory, wherein we were ensuring that we had all the relevant inventory that was needed for the powders to be in your homes. And then I moved into my current role. As Namhla mentioned, Unilever is truly a global business. It's a global company, and it is so amazing because currently I am on a virtual stint. So I am currently a supply planner for iced tea, and I am currently reporting in Belgium. So it's really not just saying that Unilever is in all these markets, but it's something that is real, and it's so amazing. So I'm currently a supply planner for Lipton iced tea in Belgium. Just started, it's my second month in the role. I'm learning so much, from culture diversity to actually doing the core job of being a planner, and actually just gaining all those critical skills that are needed for one to be a supply chain professional. And it has been so great. As it has been mentioned, purpose is a great part of Unilever. It is at the core of what we do. And I have been so privileged to live my purpose, not only outside my job, but within Unilever as well. I volunteer in Level Up, which you guys will hear more about. And really, this is because I believe that I need to instill resilience and be a source of hope for people around me, and people like yourself that are on the call. So it is so great that I get to also, within my job, live my purpose. And right there on the bottom right, you get to see me covered in powder, and that just says that it has been fun. And when we need to get our hands dirty so that you guys get the detergents, we do. Thank you, Namhla. Tanya, you may move over to the next slide.
I guess that's me. Hi, good afternoon to everyone. I hope you can see me and hear me clearly. My name is Prasheen Ganga-Prasad. I'm the Engineering Director for Africa, as Namhla mentioned. Actually, my real full-time job is being a mom to 2 teenagers. Unfortunately, the pay on that side is not too good, but get a lot of payment in kind. So my purpose is really to make a positive difference from helping. And I'm really fortunate and blessed. I feel at Unilever, I get to live my purpose every day. Because through the job I do, whether it's helping other engineers or other people on site or even the community, there's always that opportunity to do so. So I studied chemical engineering at the University of, it was the University of Natal at the time, and now UKZN, a few years ago. And my first job was actually with one of our competitors, Procter & Gamble, and I worked there for a short while. And then I moved over to Unilever with what was called the First Bounce program at the time. So for graduates who had a small experience before. I must say, almost 20 years later, I'm here because I absolutely love what I do. I love the company and I love the purpose and the vision, which has stayed strong for many, many years. Funnily enough, I started as a production planner, so very different from engineering, but it was the best start actually for me because I really got to see a lot of things about the business that weren't quite technical. And then I moved into a more technical stream. So I spent a bit of time doing process engineering jobs in the factory. And then at the time, I wanted to experience a different area of supply chain. So I moved into procurement, into buying for a little while. And then I moved into a management role, which was the safety and quality manager for our personal care factories. Also based at a factory, great learning, good to see a different side of the business with regards to what we have to do and implement and comply with in safety and quality. From there, I moved into a more technical role, if I could call it that, was innovation and technology manager, again, factory-based. Lovely balance between what the business needed to do in terms of innovation and all the new products we landed and how we could really bring that to life. After a few years in that role, it expanded to looking after Africa, so not just the South African factories, but Africa. And as Cheka was mentioning earlier on, we're not just a South African or regional or global business in name. There's an actual opportunity to go out and work abroad. So it's very fortunate again to have lived and worked in the UK for almost 5 years, doing global roles. Beautiful experience, probably the best one of my career. Moved over with the family as well, so it was a great family experience for all of us to enjoy and grow and learn from. And moved back into South Africa and into the Africa Engineering Director role about 1.5 years ago. So what my job entails as an Africa Engineering Director is really to take our business strategy, so what we want to do from a business point of view, like grow the business in a sustainable way, have a positive impact, and translate that into what it means from a technology point of view. So what do we invest in? What kind of lines, processes, designs? Who do we partner with as suppliers? So I lead a team of engineers and work very closely with Ntukozo and people in her team and our other factories to make that really come to life. There's a number of things that have enabled my journey, a lot of them personal, a lot of them through the company. And I think I'll leave it there for now. Hand over to the next person. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prasheen. And Ntokozo, please tell us a little bit more about your career journey and yourself. Awesome.
Okay, thank you. And yeah, good afternoon, everyone. I think you can see that they've actually placed us in terms of the youngest and then the middle age and then me being the matured one. So I'm from extreme end where I actually studied engineering when it was unheard of in the early 90s. And I had to get a sponsorship, from UCT, for UCT to study and do a bridging in terms of matric to engineering. And you may ask, how did you know about engineering in the early 90s? I was at a girls only school and then a volunteer from the USA who was doing a gap year after finishing BSc Chemical Engineering came to our school to work, and I got interested in engineering. And because I was a tomboy, I felt it suited who I was. I didn't have any role models. I hadn't met any engineer before. So I will say to you, you are very lucky to have, exposure today. And I really urge you to listen and also take a page or two from what we are sharing with you, as this will help you in terms of your role and also in terms of getting into engineering. So I then afterwards got sponsorship from Kimberly-Clark. Then they were called Cutting Paper, who were making tissue. And I did Mech-Eng, mechanical engineering at Natal Technikon, then specialized in pulp and paper technology because Kimberly-Clark was actually doing tissue in the paper industry. And I found myself working in the paper industry for 15 years. I moved companies from Kimberly-Clark to SAPI to Mondi. Reason being, those days it was a bit tough to be a female in engineering. And I was working more as a process engineer than a mechanical engineer. Actually, I always say I never practiced my skill, but it's because we were really evolving in the early 90s into accepting females into manufacturing. So you are very, very lucky to be moving with the times now, where it's quicker to get into the industry and really make changes. So I worked in quality, I worked in product development. Eventually, I moved into production management. And because of that, I was able then to also study part-time because I really wanted to move into the food industry and did chemical engineering to be in line with what I was working on. And thereafter, I joined Tongaat Hewlett and as a production manager, refining starch into syrups that you use in your sweets and in your food. And thereafter, Unilever, yes, was the company I had always wanted to work for through their products that you always see. And I was taken in as a SHE and TPM manager. So basically working in safety, health, environment, and total productive maintenance, which is continuous improvement and making sure that, we manufacture our products in an excellent and efficient manner. Thereafter, I was promoted to the plant manager in Tea Factory Maritzburg, looked after manufacturing of, sauces, and then moved to Tea Factory where we were manufacturing Joko, Lipton. Then eventually I was promoted to the site leader role, where I was looking after end-to-end of the site in PMB in terms of making tea. There, there was a change in terms of structure changes in Unilever, where I then found myself going back to Gauteng and worked in Khanyisa making detergents, your Omo skips and other liquid detergents. And I was running the processing and also the packing hall departments. And yeah, my old employer then knocked at the door, and I went back to Kimberly-Clark, where I had started as a young girl years ago. And I joined them as the head of their manufacturing site for the past 4 years. So that's what I've been doing. But yeah, I think, Unilever, in terms of how they've really accelerated my career and the exposure I had, was always home for me. So when the opportunity came, and I think it was end of last year for me to come back, I took it upon myself to really, return to where I had found my passion, I found my purpose, and really driving the teams in terms of unleashing their talent. And I rejoined the company in March this year, where I am running now the 3 factories that actually are focusing in beauty. I always say, I've worked for all categories, but never in the beauty space. And I've been very lucky that now I'm in personal care, where we're making soaps, we are making perfumes, we are also making deodorants and also roll-ons. So the role, what it entails is looking at end-to-end supply chain. We receive raw material, packaging material, convert into products that you use, especially, like I had said, for beauty, for hygiene. And we also, do the logistics part of dispatching to the warehouses, quality, safety, the finance side, and also the HR and looking after people. And I actually derive joy in terms of really having a role that talks to my passion in terms of driving talent, and especially with the experience that I have over the past 28 years. And, Tsiho being one of the few youngsters that are actually same age as some of my team members, I really enjoy coaching them, mentoring, guiding, and making sure that people actually found what they are passionate about within their work, so that whatever they do at work can be taken into the community as well. Because part of my purpose as well is to honestly make sure that we also empower our communities within which we operate, but also near where we stay, especially when it comes to environmental stuff, where we need to really continue protecting the environment. So I drive community projects where I really share my experience of taking waste streams and converting them into income streams to make sure that our communities are not fully reliant on the government for their income and their, and just to make sure that, we don't depend on grants and other things that the government share with us. So that's me in a nutshell. Happy to be here today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ladies. What an inspiring journey, just hearing all 3 of you. I'm just going to ask a few questions that might be specific to each panelist, and sometimes I'll ask 2. I will be mindful of time, so I might have to ask 1 person rather than asking all 4 of you. Just from Tsaho, who had started with us, looking back at your career experiences to date, I know you said they were short, but you actually have done quite a bit. What are your diverse experiences that you think have given your career fulfillment? What has brought you a lot of fulfillment in your career thus far?
I think besides having gone through different roles, right? As I mentioned, joining the business as a process engineer, I think was very fulfilling for me, right? First, from the time that I joined the business and from how actually things are done within the business, right? From the camaraderie that was there in the team, because one needs to be cognizant of the fact that you might be an engineer, but you cannot do it by yourself. So I joined at a time where there was so much camaraderie, and we really were like so determined as a team to make sure that we are servicing the market. So I think my being a process engineer and actually getting to, on a day-to-day, come into contact with products that I grew up using, or my mother using, was so fulfilling, right? And actually getting to use concepts and theory that I had learned at school as a chemical engineer graduate, it was really, really fulfilling because you got to see it come to life. Your energy balances, your mass balances, and actually formulations, the chemical part of it, it was very, very enriching. And because of my character as well, just the way things were done within that role was very fulfilling to me. Whenever we would experience maybe a breakdown in the factory, how different people from different teams would actually always come together to ensure that we were succeeding at the end and we were getting the powder out of the factory was by far for me the most fulfilling experience that I've had. Thanks, Namhla.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Tsecho. The next question is going to be for Prasheen. Please share an example in your career where you faced diversity and how did you overcome that particular challenge?
Namhla, I think there's been quite a few, but of course you always pick yourself up and learn from them. And one of them I'm thinking about, and perhaps Ntokozo will also relate to this, is one where we were introducing a new formulation into one of our products. And of course, you go through all the, the design of it and the trials. And, I was leading a team that was responsible essentially for the design together with our research and development team. Unfortunately, when we started up, it didn't go according to plan. And we had made commitments to the business. So the business was expecting that we were going to turn out such stock and it was going to be at the right quality, et cetera, et cetera. And we didn't quite make that. It was a time of extreme pressure. For sure, you get calls from very senior people. You're asked to explain a lot of things. It's an uncomfortable spot. It tests you technically as well as emotionally. But I think one thing that really has helped us get out of this space and into a better space is the teamwork, which I find is one of the really good things about Unilever. So it wasn't a blame game and whose issue is it. It was everybody gets around together, be it from the factory teams, the engineering teams, our global counterparts, R&D, our planning teams, and we all work together to really make it happen. So we're on the right track, and that has really pulled us out. And I think in lots of the examples, I think of, facing adverse times more on a personal level or in the professional sense, it's really been the teamwork and the support and almost feeling like you're in a family and you're getting towards the same goal, which really makes it worthwhile and helps us get through the hard times.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing that. I know it is quite tricky to share difficult times. You have to be vulnerable, but that sounds like an awesome example of how the team can actually rally together to actually move on and take in learnings, and some things can still work out well. My next question is to Ntokozo. What is unique about an engineering career at Unilever? You did talk about how difficult it was to enter the industry. What has been unique at Unilever?
Unilever believes in engineers, and what I like is that you don't get channeled to be an engineer in terms of production, then moving upward maybe to my role, but you can do any role across planning. You can actually move into procurement. You can move into logistics. You can move even into HR. I was surprised that there's someone actually in HR who has an engineering background. So Unilever doesn't limit you. Actually, we truly believe that as an engineer, you've been taught to be analytic. You've been taught to really, spread yourself much wider and actually make sure that you learn fast and you derive, results from what you've learned from varsity, because it can really broaden your mind. And then you pick up on financial side of things very quickly as well. And yeah, you can do any role within Unilever as an engineer. Very broad.
Sorry, I'm talking on mute. It's the worst thing that we've been doing ever since we've gone virtual. Apologies, guys. Thank you so much, Ntokozo. My next question is for you, Tsecho, specifically because you're currently on the UFLP program. What have you most enjoyed in being in the program? And can you share your experiences of being particularly in the engineering space thus far?
You're on mute, Tsecho.
Also on mute.
We don't get used to it, do we? All right. But I was saying, I think I've alluded to what I enjoyed the most about being in the engineering space, right? And I'm going to really touch on what I've enjoyed about being in the program in itself, and not necessarily just being in the program, right? But being a part of Unilever. One, there's a couple of things, and maybe I'll just touch on three for the sake of time, which is what Ntokozo was just talking about, to say when you come within Unilever, you come in as an engineer, but you're not limited to that space. You are allowed to use the skills that you have to go into not necessarily any department or function that you want to be in, but to go into spaces where you are going to gain more skills and put into application the skills that you already have, which is, for me, thus far has been like very, very beneficial in terms of just how I have developed as a professional, right? So the biggest thing about being in the program, I enjoy the rotation, the stints that it comes with. The second thing I think for me has been the accessibility and availability of leaders within the business. And what that has helped me with is just actually curating the kind of professional that I want to become, the kind of supply chain leader that I want to become. So within Unilever, you have access to people that are in such high position, because hierarchy is not a thing that is so dominant at Unilever. Like, you literally can get access to a Ntokozo, to a Prasheen, who are directors of such big factories, Prasheen, who's an Africa director. So what the program has helped me with, and I think it's not just being within UFLP, but just Unilever as a business, you have accessibility to such great leaders, which then offer you mentorship, they offer you guidance, and they are so vulnerable in terms of sharing their stories that you can learn from and actually make sure that you do better as a young professional. I think that is one of the things that has been outstanding for me about being within the UFLP program. The third one, and it will be the last one for the sake of time, for me it has been my personal development. It has been such an easy but not easy thing to go through, but because of the resources that are found in the business, it has been somewhat accelerated. There is so much resources within the business that you actually can use to future fit yourself. We all know that the way of working is changing, and we all need to be future fit for you to be relevant in any sort of workspace that you find yourself. So I've found so many resources within Unilever and being a part of the program that have enabled me to future fit myself and develop myself as a person. And I think that those are just a few things that have been outstanding for me, being in the program for just over 2 years, going into 3 years now. For the sake of time, I won't touch on others. But then also something that Prasheen also touched on is the teamwork that is within Unilever, where you actually feel like you're a part of this big family where it's not just about business, but people actually care about your well-being. I must say that the business is one that really, really cares about your well-being, and that was tried and tested, and Unilever came out with flying colors, I think, during the COVID times, where you were actually cared for as an individual and your well-being was actually put first, and it was not just about business. Yeah, that's about it, Namhla.
Thank you. I am mindful of time. Thank you for keeping it short and a little bit more summarized. Just from what you were saying, Prasheen, if you can just advise us on the different career streams that we have at Unilever, if an engineer was to join.
Sure. So I think thanks to Ntokozo and Tsheko for sharing a lot about, what makes it great and about being here. And the one thing is, definitely as an engineer, you are not boxed into just being a technical engineer. So most engineers do join into what I'd call the technical stream. So there's a lot of different opportunities for you to join and to work depending on your discipline. There's a lot of factory roles, be it production engineers, utilities engineers, project engineers, process engineers, continuous improvement engineers. There's a host of factory-based and also R&D-based roles in which you can excel in and do, as a technical function. Of course, there's a progression element to that. So some engineers prefer to be quite technical and become subject matter experts, while others want to kind of progress along the more leadership route. And I think that's one I've taken as well. And of course, we offer different kind of support. So if you wanted to be, as a factory engineer, for example, or factory engineering manager, there would be certain requirements we'd want. So, for example, in that type of role, you would need to have a GCC or a government certificate of competency, and we'd support that, and we highly encourage our engineers to have professional registration, and of course in this factory engineering manager route, to have that GCC certificate to get into that type of position. And then we have what a few of my colleagues have touched on the non-technical route. That's certainly one I dipped into and out of, which is where you can do different roles in the business side. So in planning, in procurement, in logistics, in certain broader sustainability functions, even HR if you wanted to, which gives you a really well-rounded sense. So even as you progress into those type of leadership roles, so a lot of our senior leaders in the business, if I think about it, even at global level, actually have an engineering background. So it really helps round you and helps you understand the business side, as well as the engineering side. So again, that was just a kind of a quick whirlwind tour of the different types of engineering roles you can do at Unilever.
Awesome. Thank you so much. You've shared the different types and what would be some of the requirements and the support that we give. Thank you so much, Prasheen. My next two questions will be for Lindsay. The first one is, what are the various degrees? Because we've heard about all of the awesome career avenues that we have, but what degree or what would be the minimum requirements for someone looking to join Unilever within the engineering space?
Great, thanks, Namtla, and thanks for our panelists. So at the moment, there's two degrees that we really have a strong bias towards, and the one is mechanical engineering, obviously linked to the technical side for our factories, and the other is chemical engineering, because obviously we need it on both sides, on process as well. But that's not the only two degrees that we would consider. We also do have industrial engineers, we have electrical engineers, but yeah, those are the primary focus. But of course, we do take from some of the other streams as well.
Thank you so much. And then my last question, Lindsay, is what would be the roles that are open to a new graduate with holding one of these qualifications when they join Unilever, specifically in the supply chain and as an engineer?
Yeah, great. So most of our graduates, when they come in, particularly for a ULIP, an internship, for example, most of them will start in a process engineer role. And process engineer, I call it process engineer or production engineer. So, and those are really those continuous improvement type roles. So it's understanding what are the losses in the factories, and then what are problem solving to fix those losses. And that's really around generating value for the business. We also have process engineers in our, what we call our suit team. And they typically land a lot of innovations into the factory. So it's either landing new innovations into the factory and making sure that we have the capability. It can also be, for example, change in materials. So we've seen with COVID, a lot of restrictions on some materials, and we've had to pivot and change quickly and bring in new materials. So it's really around making sure that we have the capability in the factory to land those changes. So that would mostly be the roles that we would have as entry-level roles. And then from there, I think the ladies have talked through some of their diverse experiences.
Thank you so much, Lindsay. To all of the panelists, Sekho, Prasheen, and Dokozo, that's the end of my questions. I am mindful of time. I will ask Laura to come back on screen to just let's have a look at some of the questions that are coming from the students and the graduates to just see which ones are the pressing ones that we can try and all answer. Thank you so much, Laura.
Thank you, Namtla. I have to say there's been a huge amount of questions in the chat. So I've been making lots and lots of notes. My team have been supporting me in the background. But one question that I've seen come up 3 times is, just what specific qualities in an individual do you look for when you're looking for new talent? I don't know who wants to answer that. Any hands up, anybody?
I'm happy to take it.
Okay.
So there's actually a number of qualities that we look for. I think it's, it starts, of course, with your critical thinking and problem solving, but it's also around your, how do you collaborate with others? How do you influence, the normal sort of leadership skills that we would look for. So we normally do have a panel when we look through those. We'll start with interviews, and then you go through sort of case studies, and we will generally observe the case studies and how you've approached that, and then followed by interviews. And that's really how we select. But of course, it's really around, in any large matrix organization, you're looking for innovative thinking, you're looking for influence, you're looking for collaboration.
Perfect. You're really just looking for that kind of person who stands out and who takes the initiative. Going on to that, and then linked quite a lot to how you deal with a career and how you manage a career. And there is one question that I'm sure all grads are very interested in, and that's imposter syndrome. Have any of you struggled moving into the workplace from university? Have you struggled with imposter syndrome? I know you mentioned in Unilever that it's amazing because you can have access to the directors. But what does that mean as a young person entering the workplace? And do any of you have any advice about how to combat that?
Yeah, I think if you don't mind, Laura, I'd like to start off with that one. Yeah. So I think it's probably one of the ones I'm quite passionate about because, hands up, I face that even today. And I think every day there's am I right for this job? Am I doing it right? I think I'm okay to speak about it now because the more people I speak to, actually, I realize that I'm not the only one going through that. And just touching a bit about, the wellness programs we have and also the coaching you're offered, whether it's through the mentors or people you meet within the business, or even externally, because there are the options to have external coaches, especially in the leadership space. That really helped me realize that I'm not the only one. And there's kind of ways to just realize that you're here for a reason and you're doing the best you can, and you're appointed on your merit. So, just being able to find whether they've been linked to you through the business, these more senior leaders, or whether you naturally form a relationship with someone. Because I think, the culture of Unilever is such that you do tend to, maybe less so now, but, pre-COVID, you do tend to meet people in more of a kind of a social setting, whether it's over lunches or something like that. We are doing that more virtually now, of course. And when you start talking to people, sometimes you just form a natural bond. Everybody's quite open to share their experiences, and just talking to people really helps.
Thank you, Prasheen. I think that really answered it. I said from my personal experience that knowing you're not alone and knowing you're not the only one goes so far in just accepting that maybe you are just going to be okay. There's quite a lot of specific questions about the ULIP program, the UFLP program. Are they just for degree grads? What is the difference between an open internship and the ULIP program? And how do they go about applying and that kind of thing? Can anybody jump in and give them a bit more information about the programs you offer?
Yes. I can come in. Let me hope that I understood the question well. So the internship program is almost like your VAC work program. We have other internships where people would come in and then want to complete their studies. This one is not particularly that one. We do have that avenue. This one is for graduates that are currently in the process of completing a degree, or their BTech. We're very specific on NQF level 7. So it doesn't have to specifically be a degree. It could also be a post your national diploma. And it gives you VAC work, which is an experience, and you get to work on a nice challenging project at Unilever. And then obviously after the VAC work, you'd go back into your tertiary education and complete your particular modules. So that would specifically be ULIP. You get a line manager you'll get a mentor and you get a buddy, and we make sure that you get specific training. So how to do presentations, business acumen, how to come in and understand business talk, being a professional in the organization because you come straight from varsity and you're going to go back into varsity. So a way to understand a little bit about our culture. So we do help with those few things, but it's a very short stint. It's about 4 weeks, and that happens in July. I always want to say June, but when I look at most of the varsity breaks are in July, and then in the summer breaks, which would be around January of next year.
Thank you, Namka. I think that clarified lots of things. There's also lots of questions about, is it only for engineers? I'm just going to say this is an engineering webinar, guys, but Unilever have a whole host of opportunities, so look into it further. I am aware of time, so I'm just going to, there's one question from Remember, which I think really is a great way to end off this webinar. And they're asking about career advice. So I think if we can just go to a parting comment for everybody, one at a time, to ask about what piece of career advice would you give the students listening, or perhaps yourself if you were back in if you were back where you were when you were first entering the workplace. Let's start with you, Chego.
All right, thank you. I think what I would say is go out and make sure that you know what it is that you want to do. Yes, you have not started your career, you a new graduate, but actually do some research in terms of what it is that you want to do, and also how are things changing. And as I mentioned earlier, there is a lot of talk and there is a lot of happenings around future fitting yourself as a professional. So you need to understand how are things changing and how can you make sure that you are relevant in the workspace. Gain skills that make you stand out, because we all have degrees, lots of us have degrees, but go out and find out what it is that can make you as an individual stand out and attractive to businesses, be it Unilever or any other. There are certain skills that you can have through research, through short courses or stuff like that, that will make you stand out. So find out what it is that you want to do, the career path that you want to follow, and then find those critical skills that you need to be future fit, and then take them on so that you stand out as an individual. Thank you.
Take the initiative and educate yourself, take your own opportunities. Well done. Thank you, Chego. Prasheen, a little bit of career advice for everybody out there, please.
Sure. I think there's perhaps 2 points for me. One is to grab every opportunity. To drive your career, you may think it's going in a certain way, but sometimes there's other opportunities that that show up that perhaps weren't on your plan. But take every opportunity you can get, because that's surprise yourself even. And the second one is to surround yourself with people that lift you up. Sometimes something may not be good for you and people bring you down as well with it. But always look for opportunities where you are surrounding yourself with people, be it family, friends, colleagues, that are lifting you up and helping you move forward.
Amazing, thank you. All about positivity. I'm going to move to you, Ntokozo. Do you have any career advice or just words of inspiration for the students out there? I'm not sure if you're still there, so Lindsay, I'm going to jump to you.
Great. For me, I think, I think first of all, your learning journey doesn't stop here when you finish, when you graduate. So stay hungry and stay curious and keep learning. And I think learn things that are vast and different. So I think we've spoken about, different lanes within a matrix organization. And I think it's really important that you're not just an engineer, but actually you're creating value for the business. So be curious about the business, be curious about your consumers, be curious about your customers and how your role impacts on that. So that's the one. I think the other is, find your sense of purpose, find the things that really drive you and energize you. And the third is really watch burnout. I think it's a big danger in big organizations. So I think being able to choose the priorities and things that really impact and add value and drop the things that don't. So you're going to have to make choices around not being able to do everything, and that's okay. as long as you focused on the priorities and you've communicated with your stakeholders on what those priorities are. That would be my advice for people coming into an organization.
I think you just picked up on one thing that I think is incredibly important: communication. As a young person entering the workplace, if you're struggling, talk. If you're happy, talk. If you're interested, talk. If you want to know more, talk. So thank you for bringing that up, Lindsay. I think it's really important. So like, I've been monitoring this chat. People love Unilever. I think you're going to have so many applications after this. So I really hope you guys get what you're looking for. NAMCLA, I want to thank everybody. I want to thank Unilever. I want to thank the students. I want to thank NAMCLA, Lalapa, Lindsay, and Takozo, Chikafatso, and Pusheen. And I'm going to pass over to NAMCLA now, I think, who's going to tell you a little bit more about how to apply for the programs, which is more questions from the chat.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Laura. Thank you for having us on this awesome platform. We have put in on the chat, and I hope it's on there. I wasn't looking at the chat. Links for people to sign up on Level Up. This really helps you to get ready for the workplace. We do a lot of purpose workshops. We really, everything that Tsogo was talking about, you can tell us is really a Level Up ambassador. Please, please, please sign up. It's not just a Unilever platform, but it's us really equipping the youth to bring their best foot forward and get ready for the world of employment. And then second of all, please do not forget to download the Gradstar app. Thank you to everyone that's already on this platform who would have, but also do enter the Gradstar Awards for us to know who our top graduates are across the country. It's really good to know you guys because we really want you guys to come and work for us. So please, 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 please do enter. And as I said, currently we have our ULIP program open. It is open to all of the functions I shared before. Specifically, obviously, we're wanting to up our numbers now at the supply chain because you've heard how awesome it is to be here. Please do apply. Our applications close on the 25th of May, which is only next week, Wednesday. Sorry, my dates are a bit sketchy there. But thank you so much, guys. It was so awesome being with you. Thank you for having us on your Friday, and I wish you all a blessed weekend.